How do you manage your ever-growing pile of work? Well, the obvious answer is just spend more time on it. The problem with that is that you're just constantly thinking about work. And the underlying worry of that ever-growing list of stuff to do just becomes tiring, and you become deflated and really kind of just defeated. And so this is where I realized, actually, I have to do something different. Something has to change. For a long while, I was able to just do stuff on the fly because the most important stuff was always just in front of me, and anything else that was important would just eventually rear its ugly head again. As I started to take on a bit more responsibility for strategic work, this just-in-time approach didn't really work anymore, and I started to just try and create lists to try and keep track of all the work that I had to do and not really lose any of that context. So this approach worked for a while, but I soon realized that the list was just getting longer and longer, and while I was able to track more things, which is good, that didn't mean that more stuff was being done. Once again, the biggest fire ended up being the thing that was tackled, and anything else just kind of like languished at the bottom of the list to die. This is when I realized that I had to be a bit smarter about the types of work that I would take on and be more diligent about scheduling so those things would actually get done. As a lover of mental models and frameworks, I started using the Eisenhower Matrix to help me prioritize my work and start using time blocking to help me actually schedule those prioritized bits of work. So what is this Eisenhower Matrix anyway? Well, it's something that is attributed to the former president, the US president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who said, I have two types of work, the important and the urgent. The urgent is not important and the important is not urgent. The matrix has two axes, importance on one and urgency on the other. Something that is important and urgent should be done just straight away. Something that is important but not urgent really should be scheduled so you get round to it. Something that is not important and urgent is something that could probably be delegated to someone else. And something that's not urgent and not important really shouldn't be done. Just drop it, it's not worth your time, you have better things to do. The problem I found myself having is there's always something urgent, and so that was always the nearest fire that I would tackle. Anything that was important was often just a bit further off in the distance, and so would never really be picked up. In real terms, this meant that I always prioritized development for the current release, and other stuff like planning for meetings often wouldn't happen, and I'd be kind of surprised or caught off guard in the meeting itself, and important stuff that didn't really have a fixed deadline would often just not really happen. Even now, I find myself having difficulty detaching myself from non-important work. I really just have to be a lot more ruthless, not taking that kind of work on, and delegating wherever possible. So now, with a better sense of what's important and what's worth doing, I still had difficulties using just kind of simple to-do lists. And so this is where the concept of time blocking comes in, because anything worth doing is worth scheduling time for. This was really another kind of step change moment for me. Previously, I'd always used calendars as a way of scheduling time with other people, so like meetings and such, but I'd never used calendars to schedule my own time. When I realized I have to do some research into multi-region app launches, I scheduled some time in the calendar. When someone asks me for feedback on a marketing strategy, I'll put some time in the calendar. When I think to myself, I need to get back to Barry about the post-production reports, I'll put 10 minutes in the calendar, make sure it's done. And when I forget to actually schedule stuff in the calendar, that's when everything falls apart and I'm back to where I was. Now, things won't always go to plan, and sometimes there are interruptions, and so I have to push things back. But that hour that I plan to spend looking at our release process, it's not just disappeared, I've just pushed it back into a free slot next week. Using this process, I found that fewer things tend to be dropped, and I was more prepared for meetings in general. This in turn took a load off my mind because my list is now more manageable and more organized, and I know there is time set aside for important things. Now, once again, none of this is new. People think that humans have been using time blocking since the Bronze Ages, so why has it taken me so long to have this aha moment? If you're anything like me, you don't really understand the value of something until you face the same problem. Really, it's only when you've tried and failed at something that those kind of age-old wisdoms really can start to make sense. Anyway, I hope this cutting-edge Bronze Age thinking is something that is helpful, and I'd be fascinated to hear what other tools and techniques you might have used to help you better manage your time.